They lied to us. WWE looked us dead in the eye and told us it would never happen. Triple H went on record saying certain bridges were burned beyond repair. Roman Reigns moved on to his tribal chief era. Seth Rollins became a Grand Slam champion. And Jon Moxley? He became the face of AEW, the company's world champion, their cornerstone. The wrestling world accepted it as fact. The Shield was dead, buried, and never coming back. But on Monday Night Raw, everything we thought we knew got obliterated in one earth-shattering moment that nobody saw coming. Let me ask you something, and I want you screaming in the comments right now. When was the last time WWE made your jaw physically drop to the floor? When was the last time you jumped out of your seat, threw your phone, and just absolutely lost your mind? Because that's exactly what happened when the music hit, when that familiar tactical vest appeared, and when Jon Moxley, yes, Jon Moxley, walked down that ramp as Dean Ambrose to stand side by side with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins for the first time in 7 years. This isn't clickbait. This isn't a rumor. This isn't some fan's fantasy booking. This happened, and the wrestling world is in absolute chaos trying to process what this means for WWE, for AEW, and for the entire industry. But here's where it gets absolutely insane, and here's why I'm legitimately angry right now, because while we're all celebrating this reunion, there are layers to this story that WWE isn't telling you. There are contracts, there are politics, and there are major players behind the scenes who are absolutely furious that this went down. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why this reunion might be the most controversial moment of 2025, and why it could change professional wrestling forever. The night started like any other Raw. Roman Reigns was in the ring, delivering a promo about his upcoming title defense. Seth Rollins had just finished his match, standing at ringside. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Then the lights went out, and when they came back on, the entire arena erupted into absolute pandemonium. There he was, Dean Ambrose, or Jon Moxley, or whatever you want to call him at this point, standing on the stage in full Shield tactical gear. Not his AEW attire, not some generic outfit. The actual Shield vest, the tactical pants, everything that made the Shield iconic. Roman and Seth looked just as shocked as everyone else. The camera caught Roman's face, and you could see genuine emotion, not the tribal chief character, but Roman Reigns the man, seeing his brother return home. The three men stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. The crowd was chanting Shield, 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 so loud that commentary couldn't even be heard. Then, in perfect synchronization, all three men raised their fists together, and the place absolutely exploded. The pop was so loud it registered on nearby seismographs. I'm not even joking, look it up. But here's the question I need you to answer in the comments. Do you think Jon Moxley is back in WWE permanently, or is this a one-time appearance? Drop your prediction below because this is where things get complicated. Now let's talk about what WWE isn't telling you, and why people behind the scenes are reportedly losing their minds over this. According to multiple sources close to the situation, this reunion wasn't supposed to happen. At least not now. At least not like this. Triple H had been working on bringing Moxley back for over a year, but every time they got close, something fell through. The biggest obstacle? Tony Khan and AEW. Moxley is still technically under AEW contract. Yes, you heard that right. So how is he on WWE television? This is where it gets legally fascinating and potentially explosive. Remember when WWE and AEW worked together for the Forbidden Door scenario with Centimeter Punk's return? Well, apparently, a similar framework was established, but this time, nobody in AEW's management knew about it except Tony Khan himself. And sources are saying Tony is absolutely livid right now because he wasn't consulted on the timing, the presentation, or the fact that Moxley appeared in full Shield gear, which WWE owns the trademark to. Here's where the controversy explodes even further. Several AEW talents reportedly found out about Moxley's WWE appearance the same way we did, by watching Raw. Can you imagine being in the AEW locker room, being told that your company is different, that loyalty matters, that you're building something revolutionary, and then your world champion shows up on the competition's programming without any warning? The backstage morale in AEW right now is reportedly at an all-time low, and several wrestlers are questioning what this means for their futures. But let's flip this around because I want to hear from the WWE fans in the comments. Is this the greatest moment in modern WWE history, or does it feel like WWE is just recycling nostalgia because they can't create new stars? Seriously, I want your honest opinion because the internet is divided right now. The reunion segment lasted approximately 15 minutes, and what happened during those 15 minutes was pure magic. The Shield stood in the ring together, and Roman Reigns grabbed a microphone. His voice was shaking. This wasn't scripted emotion, this was real. Roman talked about how the Shield changed his life, changed the industry, and changed what it meant to be brothers in this business. He said they all went their separate ways, became champions in their own right, and carved individual legacies that would last forever. But something was always missing. That bond, that brotherhood, that belief. Seth Rollins took the mic next, and if you thought Roman was emotional, Seth was on another level. He apologized. He apologized for breaking up the Shield all those years ago. He apologized for letting ambition and ego destroy the most important thing he ever had. He talked about watching Jon Moxley become a megastar in AEW and feeling proud but also feeling regret that they couldn't share those moments together. Then Moxley grabbed the microphone, and the place went silent. Everyone wanted to hear what he would say. Would he address AEW? Would he address the controversy? Would he explain why he came back? Instead, Moxley did what Moxley does best. He kept it real. He said that for 7 years, he tried to outrun the Shield. He tried to prove he was more than just 1/3 of a faction. He became AEW World Champion, he main event Tokyo Dome, he fought in death matches and became the most dangerous man in professional wrestling. But every single night, no matter where he was, no matter who he was fighting, there was an emptiness. Because the Shield wasn't just a faction, it was family. Here's another question for the comments, and this one's important. If you could see the Shield face any team in WWE right now, who would it be? Judgment Day? Bloodline? New Day? Let me know your dream match. What happened next will be debated for years. The Bloodline's music hit, not Roman's Bloodline, but Solo Sikoa's Bloodline. Solo, Jacob Fatu, Tamar Tonga, and Tonga Loa surrounded the ring. They had the numbers advantage. They had the momentum. They thought they had Roman isolated. But they didn't count on Dean Ambrose being there. They didn't count on Seth Rollins. And they damn sure didn't count on the Shield being back together. What followed was 5 minutes of absolute chaos. The Shield fought like they never left. The chemistry was still there. The tandem offense was still crisp. Triple power bombs through tables. Suicide dives in perfect sequence. Dirty deeds, pedigrees, and spears delivered in rapid succession. By the time the dust settled, the Bloodline was laid out, and the Shield stood tall in the center of the ring with their fists raised high. It was poetic. It was perfect. It was everything we dreamed about for 7 years. But let's address the elephant in the room, the business side of this that nobody wants to talk about. How much did WWE pay for this moment? Rumors are swirling that Jon Moxley received one of the largest single appearance deals in wrestling history. We're talking millions for one night. And here's what's making executives nervous. If WWE is willing to pay that much for a nostalgia pop, what does that say about their confidence in their current roster? What does that say about their ability to create moments that feel this important with the talent they have under contract? I'm not saying the Shield reunion isn't amazing, it absolutely is. But there's a larger conversation here about the state of professional wrestling. Are we so addicted to nostalgia that we can't appreciate new stars? Are companies so desperate for ratings that they'll mortgage their future for a temporary spike? These are legitimate questions, and I want to know what you think in the comments below. There's also the question of what happens next. Is this a one-off? Is Moxley sticking around for a program? Will we see the Shield at Survivor Series? At Royal Rumble? At WrestleMania? WWE hasn't announced anything official, and that silence is deafening. If this was a one-time appearance, that's one thing. But if Moxley is actually back long-term, it fundamentally changes both WWE and AEW's landscape. AEW loses their top star and their credibility. WWE gets one of the most popular wrestlers in the world back in the fold. The ramifications are massive. Here's my final question for you, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Should Jon Moxley stay in AEW and honor his contract, or should he return to WWE permanently where the Shield belongs? This is probably the most controversial question I'll ask, so don't hold back in the comments. The Shield's reunion represents something bigger than just 3 guys standing in a ring together. It represents hope that maybe, just maybe, in an industry filled with politics, ego, and corporate interests, the things that matter most, brotherhood, loyalty, and legacy, can still prevail. It represents a moment where the wrestling business took a backseat to creating something genuinely special for the fans. But it also represents the complicated reality of modern professional wrestling, where contracts are fluid, where competition between companies creates both opportunities and controversies, and where the line between fan service and business strategy becomes increasingly blurred. Whether you think this reunion is the greatest thing WWE has done in years or a desperate grab for ratings, one thing is undeniable: everybody is talking about it. Everybody has an opinion, and that's exactly what wrestling is supposed to do. The Shield is back. The question now is for how long, and at what cost? Make sure you're subscribed to Wrestling Zone 1 because we're going to be covering every single development in this story as it